see me walking on and it's the running man. It's kind of distinct opposites there, isn't it, really? Couldn't have hobbled slower. So welcome to BFI Southbank. My name is Justin Johnson. I'm the head of the cinema programme, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this very special screening of The Running Man. Woo! There we go. I can't be much of my own woos then, actually. So I did just say, first of all, Edgar Wright has been a great friend of the BFI for many, many years. He's also a BFI governor, and he always makes sure that when it comes to sort of coming and talking to our audiences, he's always very generous with his time. So we're really thrilled he's agreed to come and do this event for us. He's going to do a signing afterwards, so if you want to go and get a copy of The Running Man from our shop, they're newly arrived in, and you can take it and Edgar will sign it for you just outside our blue room. It will all be very clear. There'll be people to show you the way if you need any help. But do come and do that. That will be after the event is finished. But with that, I should also say that after the film, Edgar will be chatting to Chris Stewart from Empire magazine, so he's in extremely good hands. And the last thing I have to say, but by no means the least, is please join me welcoming Edgar Wright.
Like Justin was saying, I love coming to BFI Southbank and presenting my films and talking to you, or presenting other people's films as well. I'll just do a little intro, because I know some of you have seen the film before, and some of you have not seen the film before, but I'll give you a little bit of context. I had read Stephen King's book, which was published initially under the name Richard Bachman, his pseudonym, when I was 14. So I started reading Stephen King books when I was at exactly the right age of being too young. And I had read The Running Man before I saw the 1987 film adaptation, because that didn't come out in the UK until 1988, and I was still 14 then, and it was an 18 certificate. Definitely didn't see it at the cinema, couldn't sneak in. But I had read the book, so by the time I saw it on VHS, and any of you who've read the book and seen the previous film know that they are two very, very different things. And so when I saw that film, I was confused, I must admit, because I was thinking, this isn't like the book at all. And I guess even then, long, long before being a director, I'm sure like many of you, you've made the movie in your head when you were reading it. So I think that sort of stuck with me for decades until somebody actually offered me the chance to do a new adaptation. And so that was, and also, if you don't know this, like the book, written in 1973, but not published until 1982, was set in the year 2025. I asked Stephen King about that when we were doing press. I said, why 2025? And he said, it sounded cool and it was a long way off. And the cover of the 1982 book, I kid you not, the log line says, welcome to the year 2025, where the best men don't run for president, they run for their lives. Now, we didn't put that on the poster, for obvious reasons. Now, even though it's not a remake of the 1987 film, there is, as some of you who have seen it already know, that there is a little nod to Arnold Schwarzenegger, the lead of the other movie. And, you know, to get his photo in the movie, you have to get photo approval from the governor himself. So I wrote a really nice email to Arnold. I didn't know him at all. And he approved this photo, which was very nice of him. No fee, just said, sure, you can use it, but, you know. Then, as we were getting closer to making the film, Glenn Powell, who is the lead of the movie, he has actually been in a film with Arnold Schwarzenegger before. Anybody? Which film is Glenn and Arnold in together?
The Expendables 3.
You should be ashamed of yourself. So he's correct, it was The Expendables 3. You really pulled yourself out there. But Glenn said, do you think we should call Arnold? You know, and I said, I was thinking the same thing, because you can't retroactively get somebody's blessing. And also Glenn is good friends with Patrick Schwarzenegger, his son. So a couple of days before we were about to start filming, me and Glenn were actually watching a good luck film. We decided to watch Steve McQueen's The Getaway, Sam Peckinpah's The Getaway, starring Steve McQueen rather, which has kind of got a similar structure to this. It's like an action road movie. And halfway through the movie, Glenn's got a missed call from Patrick Schwarzenegger. So we call back, and then Patrick says, I'll just patch Dad in. And then I've never met him, so then we're on a FaceTime with Arnold, who's sitting in a sun lounger in California with sunglasses on. And he's obviously met Glenn, but he's never met me. And the first thing he says is, he goes, "Oh, you have a gap in your teeth." And I immediated sort of reflexively start covering it up because I think Mr. Universe is picking on me. And he said, "When I first came to Hollywood, I had a gap in my teeth, but then later I had it fixed." And I said, "Arnold, I haven't had my teeth fixed yet." And he goes, "Don't do it. The gap is good luck." And when I had the gap in my teeth fixed, my box office went down. That was the start of the conversation. And eventually, I got Glenn had met him already, but we got to meet him because did a screening for him. Glenn said he'd never seen me so sweaty and nervous as waiting for Arnold Schwarzenegger to come out of the screening room. And the other thing is, so that was amazing, and he's been so kind about the film. And then separately from that, on a more official basis, Stephen King, obviously one of my favorite authors, and since I was a little kid. And Stephen King, I first had some contact with because he'd given us a press quote for Shaun of the Dead in 2004, so 21 years ago, which kind of completely blew our minds that we had a press quote from Stephen King himself. And then more recently, maybe after Baby Driver, we'd started emailing. But even though he's an executive producer on the film, because basically he has to sign off on the adaptation, and he has sort of, wants to know who's going to be cast in the movie. And I didn't email him about the film until it was about to go, because I didn't want to be the boy who cried wolf. I didn't want to talk to Stephen about something until I knew it was definitely going to happen. So it was closer to actually it being greenlit that I got in touch, and we sent him, me and Michael Bacall, who co-wrote the screenplay, sent him our adaptation. And as you probably know, he's an English teacher in his past. So imagine having to send your script to the world's most famous English teacher. It was a very sweaty experience, but he loved the adaptation, and he was so generous and encouraging, and all the way through the shoot. And I spoke to him on the phone the first time was after he first watched a cut of the movie, the first preview cut we did. And then closer to release, I just felt like I'd spoken to him on the phone, emailing all the time. I said, "I'd really love to meet you before the film comes out." And I said, "I'm in New York for Comic-Con this weekend in October." This is just last October, just a month before the film came out. I said, "Could I come to Maine and meet you? I could come to Bangor." And he said, "I don't actually live in Bangor anymore, but if you're there that weekend, I can meet you there on the Saturday." And so he recommended a hotel, he booked a table at a restaurant. Me and my other half flew to Bangor in Maine. And he'd given me the address of another house, which I didn't put two and two together initially what it was. But we got there, and then we got into the cab, and the cab driver said, "First time in Maine?" And we're like, "Oh," I said, "Oh no, I've been to Portland before, but never Bangor." He goes, "Oh, if it's your first time in Bangor, I'll drive you past Stephen King's house." So then we're driving past, he takes us past Stephen King's house on the way to our hotel. And of course, this is the address that Stephen's given me, so I'm like, and then there's loads of fans outside, and then the taxi driver says, "So, what are your plans in Bangor?" And I was like, "Oh, we're having dinner with a friend." I wasn't going to tell him that we were going to meet Stephen King, because I have seen the film Misery. And we're all aware what could happen next. So I kept it Anyway, listen, all that's to say is what a crazy experience making this film. I'm so proud of the movie, but also these chances to you get chances to work with and meet some of your heroes in lots of different ways. And it's been a real pleasure. And before you watch the movie, and I'll be back with Chris Hewitt from Empire to do a Q&A, somebody else would like to introduce the film. So enjoy this, and I'll see you at the end of the movie. Thank you.